Hey everyone, I'm Basant from Smart Tech Guide. In this video, I'm going to talk about tax filing in United States. If you are US resident, United States citizen, or anyone you need to file taxes for United States, then this is the right guide. I'll include some of the basic scenario as well as some complex use cases. So please watch next few minutes. First of all, how to file US taxes, if possible free, otherwise at minimum cost. There may be scenarios like you may have to pay for your state tax return, but it depends on everyone's situation. Most of the times you can get free tax return for both federal and state with some of the provider tax filing softwares. First, collect all the documents that you have for income, all the income statements like W2, 1099, 1099 interest, 1099 SSA, 1095, and all mortgage, health insurance, bank interest, or stock market income and loss statements. Gather everything so that you don't have to switch in between and go back to find those documents. Gather everything in one place, make it ready. Next thing is collect and keep all the information from your family members. For example, if you are filing with married as a jointly or as a head of household, you need all the information from your family. For example, name with spelling and SSN of each of the applicable dependents or spouse. Those things you need to make it handy, keep it all in one place, and then you can start filing. Choose the tax calculator or filing software very wisely. Federal tax is free from a lot of tax filing softwares like Free File, Pre-Tax USA, Turbotax. It's also called Intuit, and Credit Karma, H&R Block. It's a lot of them. Even I haven't included all of them. You can find all of them in this IRS link, apps.irs.gov/app/free file. You'll get all these providers that are directly partner with IRS for free filing, and this free filing works for anyone with 69,000 or less income. But some of the provider actually doesn't charge you even if you have higher income. For instance, Credit Karma, it doesn't charge you a penny if you are filing one state and of federal tax. So and Free Tax USA is my second preference. It does charge around $12-13 for a single state. If you have multiple state, that's multiplied by number of state, and the federal tax is free on Free Tax USA, Turbotax, Credit Karma, H&R Block, everywhere it's free. You just have to pay for state tax in some of the tax filing software, but if you use Credit Karma, then you don't have to pay anything. With that said, you cannot use Credit Karma if you have multiple states that needs tax filing. For instance, if you need to file tax file for California and Virginia, for instance, you lived in two states in the year of 2019, you have to file in both places. That is not supported from Credit Karma yet at this point. Maybe they will bring it later on, later years, but this year it's not supported. You can just file for one state from Credit Karma, and that's free. But if you have to file for multiple states, then you have to choose another options like Pre-Tax USA. That's the cheapest option, and it's the best option I have seen so far. I have tried Turbotax, Free Tax USA. I haven't tried H&R Block, but I have tried this two: Turbotax, Free Tax USA, Credit Karma, and some other tax filing software. I have calculated, I have seen all the options, and I prefer Credit Karma if you have only one state, then Free Tax USA if you have multiple state. So these are tax filing software. You can get multiple other tax filing software from the IRS link. If you are in military, I'll share all the links I mentioned in my description section below, so don't worry about typing in. And if you are military, then visit this link. It shows mil tax and support for all the military persons. So you get free tax for military person as well. And some of the state does not require you to file taxes because they don't have income tax at all, or they don't have income tax but they might have investment tax. For example, Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming does not have state tax at all. If you live in these states, you don't have to file taxes for those states. If you live in those states and some other state, then you just need to file taxes on other state but not in those states. For example, if you live in Florida and California, and you just need to file for California and federal, in that case you can still use Credit Karma because you just need to file in one state even if you live in multiple states. So Credit Karma supports filing to one state and federal altogether. And if you live in New Hampshire or Tennessee, these two states have investment tax. If you are not into investment, if you don't have any investment income, then you don't have to file tax. But if you have some kind of investment, stock or real estate investment, then in that case you need to file taxes for those states. So it depends on your scenario. Next, tax filing use case. Earlier I discussed about the different scenario and what filing and all those things, and what state you need to file and what state you don't need. Anything then those 9 I mentioned, you must file state tax and federal tax, as long as if your income is above the guideline provided by IRS. This is the guideline provided by IRS. I'll come to that a little bit later. So let me go back there, and if you live in these 7 states, primarily 7 states, you don't have to file tax. If you live in these 2 states, New Hampshire and Tennessee, and you don't have any investment income, you don't have to file in taxes for those states, but you always have to file taxes for your federal and if you live in other states. So let's move to next slide. Tax filing use case, like there are multiple scenarios you may need to file. If you are single, you need to file. If you are filing as a married and jointly, married filing separately, and married filing separately is kind of similar to married filing jointly. You just have to mention the spouse information, spouse or domestic partner information, but everything else like single. And head of household, it's a little bit different than joint married filing jointly or single status, because if you claim head of household, half of your income has to be spent on some dependents that you claim on the head of household filing status. If you are qualifying widower, or if you have dependent childs, you can file, you have to file taxes. These are 5 different tax filing status. Even in these status you may have different situation and some complex situations, some simple situation. I'll discuss all of those. Tax filing use case and income levels. if you are single under 65 age and your income is less than 12,200, then you don't need to file taxes for federal or state. If you are 65 and older, the same income range goes up little bit, 13,850. If you are married filing jointly, it's 24,400. It's double the 12,200, and that is kind of deductible somewhat, and you don't have to pay any taxes, so you don't have to file taxes for those income. If you prefer, you can still file it, but you don't have to if you don't want. There are some other filing status and income levels over here. Filing jointly, married filing jointly, spouse is 65 or older, it will go a little bit up above 24,000, that's 25,700. Married filing jointly, both spouse older, in that case it will get 1,650 extra for both spouse, so it will be a little bit up. If you are filing separately, married and filing separately, look at that, this is different, $5. If you have income of $5 or above and you are filing with married filing separately, you have to file taxes on federal and states, all the states you live except the states I mentioned before. Head of household under age 65 and above age 65, there are two different income levels. Qualifying widow under age 65, above age 65, again there are two different widow income levels. Note that qualifying widow is kind of similar to the married filing jointly by income perspective, because that's the preference they got, and because the husband or wife has died recently, and that's the preference they got. And next, special use cases. There might be a scenario like you may have to file taxes even if you are non-resident. What does that mean is you don't live in United States, but somehow you are related to the US income, and then in that case you have to file US taxes. So how do you do that? For even in that, there are two different scenarios. If you have SSN or individual tax identification number from IRS, then it's pretty easy. It's just filing like I mentioned before, it's pretty straightforward. You have to mention and file different files like non-resident filing, but it's still straightforward and there is no complexity. But if you are non-resident without social security or individual taxpayer number, in that case it becomes a little bit complex, and this may apply for most of the filing status. If you are single and non-resident, and if you have SSN or ITIN, or if you don't have SSN or ITIN, it may apply for you. It may apply for married filing jointly, married filing separately, or head of household, or even qualifying widow with dependents. With that, let's go back to another slide. If you are non-resident, as I mentioned earlier, you will have two options again. If you have SSN or ITIN, that's pretty straightforward. You just have to file 1040 non-resident as a ENR. So with that, it's straightforward. You just fill in your SSN and all the information, or ITIN and all the information and all the incomes, and all the documents that I mentioned earlier. All the income documents and supporting documents you have to attach with your return, so keep it all together and attach, and then when you finish your tax filing, But what if you are non-resident, you are somewhat related to the EX tax filing? In that case, this is I'll discuss in next slide. Non-resident, IRS has various of guidelines who has to file the taxes and who does not need to file the taxes, and I mention these links, and go ahead and read. It's pretty straight and clearly mentioned over there. And let me go with one of the link. This is for individual international taxpayers. If you are related to US tax laws somehow, then you have to file the taxes. It mentions different kind of status: non-resident, spouse treated as resident, or a closer connection to foreign country, tax treaties, and business related things, or there are so many other things you can think of. If you go here in navigate through the links, you will see all these details. Non-resident aliens who have not met green card test or the substantial present test, but they are eligible. In that case, they can file for taxing US tax files. And dual status airlines, they may live for the entire year out of the United States, but their income may be related to United States. In that case, they have to file taxes. These are the all scenario. You can look at IRS site. I'll share this link in my description section, so don't worry about typing or anything. Let me go back to my slide. So with all this information, this one last piece I want to mention. If you don't have Social Security or ITIN, in that case you need to file for individual taxpayer identification number. That you cannot do online. So for that you need to either file the tax by paper, that means mail. You have to mail your taxes along with W7, that's the application for individual taxpayer identification number. If you file with W7 form, they will assign W7 form and fill out the individual taxpayer number that you need to fill on the tax file, and then they will process your tax return. You just have to leave it blank and then print out the documents, and then send all the documents with all the attachment like W2, all the incomes and supporting documents that you are actually eligible for tax filing even if you live abroad. So those kind of proof may contains like your passport. You may be a citizen but living abroad for more than a year, for entire year. That can prove you are eligible to file taxes, or you may have some kind of income from agency in US and you still live in abroad. In that case, you have to file this kind of proof. You can gather and send it along with your tax file. And one other thing is, if you are married and your spouse lives abroad, you are eligible to have the status of married filing jointly. With that, you will save your tax, because if you file separately, or married filing separately, or even as a single status, you have to pay taxes as if you are single. That means it will be a high percentage. But if you are married and if you are supporting your spouse who lives abroad, then you are actually eligible to file as a non-resident alien spouse. That's the link over here. I'll share this link as well. There are so many instruction for that, and a couple of things like not to forget is you need some kind of declaration that you want to file taxes together although your spouse lives abroad. This is the first declaration, and you need the name, address, and identification number for each of your spouse, like each of you and your spouse. You may live in United States, your spouse may live abroad, but you have to mention all the addresses. Both addresses, and mailing address will be United States, your home, or any other mailing address you provide. So with that, and one other thing, I don't have it in slide, but the tips. This is about filing, but how do you calculate your taxes? If you are actually non-resident, you are not, and if you don't have social security or ITIN. If you have social security or ITIN, you can just use same software that I mentioned before, Pre-Tax USA, Turbotax, Credit Karma, or anything you prefer. If you just have to file for one state, then go for Credit Karma. That's the best and free. And if you don't have social security or ITIN information, you cannot use those sites to file online, and to calculate you can still use them, because you have to enter both of your and your spouse social security or ITIN information, but you can use dummy social security for your spouse for the calculation purpose. Go to their site and enter all the information, everything correctly except social security. Just type 0000000 and calculate, fill out all the incomes and everything, go all the way in. At the end, do not submit. As I mentioned, do not submit. That's the mistake you don't want to do, and instead choose to have mailed tax return. Every tax filing software allows you to choose mailing option as well as e-file option at the end of the calculation. That do not choose e-file, but choose mailing option, and then you will have option to download your field document. And so after you download all the documents that are already ready to file, you just need to change that few pages that has spouse social security information, change them and then print out them separately by nullifying them. Do not use 0000. It has to be null, nothing, blank. So just calculate, just type the same form separately and print out, and for that you can go to irs.com and download those forms what are mentioned on your downloaded document. Every document has like form number, schedule number, or something like that. If you have different kinds of various of incomes, then you'll have different schedules, and you may need to fill multiple schedules. But if you don't have a lot of incomes, then you may have some just few schedule and measure 1040. So once you download, just find the corresponding form number. It will be written on the bottom or top of the form, and fill that form without your spouse social security information, because spouse doesn't have social security. And go to irs.com and find W7 form. You can just Google it, W7 ITIN application form, and then you can download it, fill out that form, and attach it with the 1040 and all the schedule together. And then you also have to include all the incomes and statements, and you also need to include original document for providing the ITIN application. For example, passport may be used as a identification for ITIN or any other eligible IDs that you can see in the W7 instruction. It clearly mentioned that what you need and what you don't need. So W7, I don't have it handy, but you can get it online right away. So you can get the instruction from IRS, and it mentions what are the proof you need and all the information you need. Fill out W7 form and then attach all the required documents, including original if required. And the one thing that I mentioned earlier, if you are filing with married jointly with your foreign spouse and no SSN or TIN, you also have to put, even if you have SSN or TIN, you have to put this declaration that is kind of a letter signed by both parties saying that you want to file jointly, so IRS can process your return jointly. And also the proof like identification number that I already mentioned. One other thing is where to file your printed forms, tax files. Once you print out from the if Free Tax USA or Credit Karma or TurboTax, whichever you prefer and whichever is best for you, they will provide you the address to file the different return like federal or state tax. Depending on which state, the location will be different, and you can also get it from irs.gov and file on the corresponding location. If you are filing with W7, then they have instruction on the this site, filing as non-resident aligned spouse with no SSN or TIN. In that case, W7 has to be attached, so they have different filing address than the regular one. Do not use what you print from the tax filing software. Use the W7 filing address. So that is all. Thank you. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe and share my channel and videos, like my Facebook page, and don't forget to click on the bell icon next to subscribe button to get notified of my future videos. If you haven't watched my previous videos, go ahead and watch. Feel free to comment if you like to know something or have feedback for me. Until next video, have a good time. Bye bye.